Good afternoon, traders and investors. Hope you guys are doing good. Today, bears getting trapped and the market makers just running with it. The higher time frames, though, as I was saying, we're pointing to that. Bitcoin resuming its pump towards $30,000. And once again, another big tech company going up 10% off of big earnings, guys. So we got a lot to talk about today. Let's check out some charts. So into the S&P 500. This day was absolutely ridiculous. If you look on the hourly time frame, pretty much from the open, all we did is push up every single 5-minute, 15-minute candle almost was just up right from the open. As you can see, 9:30 open, and we just moved higher and higher and higher all day. Didn't even bother to touch the 12 EMA for the better part of the day. However, as I was saying, this was to be expected. If we look on the weekly, what were we calling for, guys? The past few weeks, we wanted a weekly continuation to the downside for some consolidation here. I was looking at which levels were we looking at? Previous support and the EMAs, right? So what happened? Today and yesterday, we pretty much tagged, actually it was yesterday at the close, we tagged our level here. So this big level of support right here, right? Previous support was tagged once again. On the weekly chart, you can see what that looks like. It lined up beautifully with our 12 EMA, and the bulls do what the bulls did best. They bought the dip aggressively today. So we got a big rally off of it. As you can see, SPY up pretty much 1.8% on the futures. NASDAQ well over 2% gains, and the rest of the market was entirely green. All of my watch list basically green. This was good to see. So yesterday we had pretty much 5 names holding up the entire market while the whole market was red, but today it was more of a broad-based rally. So what this is shaping up for, guys, I want to have a look at the monthly really quick because we're about to end the month, right? We only have one more day of trading for the rest of the month, and now this will be a second potential monthly close above our moving averages. And this hasn't happened. As you can see, no 2 consecutive months here have closed above the 12 since the end of the bull run. This is very significant. If you look at the MACD down here, it is crossing above. We have our RSI on the monthly crossing above our monthly average from the first time. This is a lot of firsts, guys. This, and this, right? So we gotta take note of this, guys. The bulls, you know, even though you guys may think we may have rallied, it may just be the start of a potential further leg to the upside. Now, don't get me wrong, we could do something like this and then consolidate towards the second half of the year before resuming potential further uptrend should the recession not be all it's made out to be. But one thing at a time. But one thing's for sure, bulls have all the momentum at this point. If we close the week like this, it's a very bullish weekly doji candle. Could lead us for some continuation of the upside, which is exactly what we were expecting, right? As I said, we were always in a weekly uptrend. We came down. We've probably set the higher low at this point. So it remains to be seen if we can crack this resistance here. But I mean, we're so close to it that now becomes the most likely scenario, guys. I mean, you can only hold this resistance level after bulls continue smashing it so many times. Bears are eventually going to let you through. So big engulfing candle here, and it's even more pronounced on the NASDAQ. So look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ actually breaking this resistance ever so slightly today. Wasn't able to close above it though, but that was due to Amazon earnings after hour. We got that nice little spike back. Very green on the day. Same thing on the weekly charts here. So if you look on the weekly charts, what were we expecting? We were looking for a bull flag to set a higher low for potential continuation of the upside because we're in a weekly uptrend, guys. The trend is your friend, right? So we never lost the weekly uptrend, so it should not be surprising if we're pushing up now into the higher level of this range. So what we want to see tomorrow potentially is a close above. If we can continue this strength here, if we want to have a close above this resistance area, which will kind of really consolidate, right? If we get a close above, it'll really consolidate the bull's control. So that's what we're looking for. Nothing much more to say. We're looking for further continuation. The higher low for the week now appears to be set, perfectly bouncing off that 12 EMA and off of this pretty much support level here, right? Previous resistance becomes new support. So really nothing to say, guys. The theme of the markets were cautiously optimistic. I had to close out my VIX position early in the morning when I saw the reversal starting to happen. I also had to close my SPY short hedge that I had. SPY short hedge, slight profit on it as well. VIX was able to close it out at a slight profit too, since I got it at a pretty good level. And the rest, we're just kind of riding at this point, guys, kind of just riding the long-term portfolio out. On the monthly chart, also significant, same thing. This will be the second monthly close above our 12 EMA and even the 26 at this point. And last month's candle was extremely bullish, so we were expecting some upside continuation. And now apparently they're giving it to us in the last few trading days of the entire month. So look, I mean, the charts speak for themselves, right? This is going to be the first time since the bull market. We've now crossed above on the RSI, crossed above the average, and we're curling into bullish territory here on the MACD. Very, very, very significant. On the monthly time frame, yes, we could have an expected, I'm not saying V-shaped all-time highs. We could have an expectation of this and maybe pull back, you know, come back on sit on here and then resume to the upside. So I'm not saying V-shaped recovery, but definitely bulls are starting to be in control of all the longer time frames. And that's what you want to see if you're expecting the bull market to come back. Russell 2000, exactly doing what we wanted it to do, guys. I'm so happy I was able to write some options here early in the morning before this run hole started, because as I was seeing the rest of the indexes, the Russell was lagging. Look at the percentages. The Russell was lagging behind. So we did take advantage to write some options on IWM in my ideal range down here, picked up some 170s and some 169s with some decent premium for this week and the end of next week. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. But as of now, on the Russell, what we can see is that we have potentially set a weekly higher low with this candle here. If we can now start pushing above, that would confirm a new weekly uptrend to the bulls. So everything looking fairly decent. Russell is really lagging behind the rest of the indexes. However, if we do get bullish follow through on the NASDAQ and S&P, I believe that the Russell is actually going to start catching up quick. It has a lot of catching up to do. These are the small cap stocks. There are also a lot of beaten down financial stocks. So should we get some bullish news over the next few weeks, and if Fed Jerome Powell doesn't absolutely crush us with some hawkish tones and promise of future rate increases, the Russell should do fairly well. That's what I'm counting on. I'm putting my money on it. And as I said, guys, this is the range that I was targeting. Don't have any long shares for now, only sold options, and I kind of want to follow it on the way up. It may or not be ready for some calls. I'll look into it over the weekend, but for now, just focusing on writing some options on it. Now let's get into Bitcoin and the crypto sector. Yesterday was one of the most volatile days I've ever seen in crypto since the beginning of the year, pretty much since the whole FTX scandal, pretty much. Volatile. I'm not saying pure percentage to the upside, but look at this, guys. We pushed nearly 5% to the upside, then we came 6% to the downside, and then before the end of the day, pretty much even before 10 o'clock p.m. from the lows, we pushed up another 8%. So total move here from the start of the day, pretty much, you could say, this is about, let's call it 6, and then you went down 9, so that's already 15, and then up another 8, which is 23, right? 23% total move on Bitcoin. That is some large capital being deployed in either direction. You could call it market manipulation. You can call it stop hunting. It doesn't matter. It just means that the money is there and it's active. And that's what you want to see in crypto. You want volatility in crypto, not muted crypto like here, right? You want to see volatility because that's when the big moves happen. So as of now, taking a look at the charts here, Bitcoin doing exactly what we wanted to do, holding a weekly bull flag into our EMAs here, still above the 12, still above the 200 and the 26. So we have all the support in the world from the moving averages. We also have some horizontal support, price support here. So a whole lot of support is under the market right now between 25 and 26,000. It's going to take bears a lot of juice or really bad news to get through that area. So the tendency is going to be to the long side. The probabilities at this point do favor the long side. On the monthly, we're going to get our monthly close on Sunday, and this is kind of the same thing as the S&P and the QQQs, right? So this is going to be the second monthly close above our moving averages. MACD curling to the upside, RSI is now above its average. So all three things pointing to the north. This hasn't happened, guys. We haven't had two bullish candle closes above our short-term EMAs here since pretty much last year. And arguably last year we were already in big consolidation, right? So if you want to look before that, you'd have to go back kind of prior to the entire bull run in 2020 when it all started right over here, right? So this is very, very, very significant when you get that cross above. So now at this point, we are looking for upside continuation. It does become the most likely scenario. Targets levels that we're looking at are the 32,000 for these guys right here. And then future targets could be anywhere to the $37,000 range for continuation on Bitcoin. Downside levels, you really have to get a stop here, 25, 26. But now that we've taken back almost the entire move, wouldn't surprise me if bulls kind of consolidate here to the upside near the 30,000 before making a larger move to the upside. Ethereum kind of pretty much same thing, right? Ethereum, if we want to take it as a top down from the monthly, we have the RSI cross, we have MACD on the bullish side starting to cross, and we have our 2 monthly closes above our short-term EMAs. So that is a very, very bullish signal as a whole. If we come down to the lower time frames, we can see that the bulls are still holding our short-term moving averages. They're using this $1,800 to $1,900 range as large support and further targets to the upside. Obviously, we have to take out our more recent resistance here right around 2,100. But after that, there is a lot of space because the next area of resistance, real big resistance, comes in around 25. All right. So still some good upside, right? So the downside risk is right in these moving averages. You got about 200, I would call it about $150, $200 of downside risk to set a further weekly higher low, although they're kind of doing it right now already. And then you have about $500 to the upside, $600 to the upside. So it's about a 2, 2.5, 3 to 1, depending on which levels you pick. So very, very decent risk to reward. Congratulations to the bulls for holding these levels on crypto. And obviously, Bitcoin completely dominating the market right now. So Bitcoin, in my opinion, will continue to lead as it is still a risk-off environment. So we haven't been seeing too much follow-through, too much leading from any altcoins. But when that happens, when Bitcoin dominance does reverse, I will let you guys know if it's time to get the alts. But for now, you know, as it is, Bitcoin is still dominating the entire crypto space. It is our lead bull, so we have to respect it for now, guys. Now, let's take a look at our major tech names, right? So Apple coming in here. I also had to close my position on Apple early in the day today when I saw what was going on with the rest of the markets. Apple had a very, very big day, one of its bigger days in the last few weeks here. So what we're seeing now on Apple is a break of our recent resistance line here, and we're now breaking slightly above the trend line, and we're breaking into our resistance area, which I've labeled with this red box. So Apple is definitely going to need some form of big earnings, and if big tech earnings have been anything to go by, it wouldn't surprise me that if Apple does just well, they will get a very decent move. You know, 5, 6, 7% is very, very possible. At that point, it would put us to the top ends of this resistance range. We would be flirting with all-time highs at that point. I'm not really going to give a bear case scenario at this point because bulls are in full control of most of all time frames, full control of the weekly time frame, with higher lows being set almost every single week, not even touching the moving averages. On the daily time frame, bulls in absolute complete control. We've just confirmed the continuation of the daily uptrend with today's close. Lower time frames as well. Bulls are just controlling the entire Apple space right now. So target to the upside is going to be our 175 level here. Targets to the downside potential, we're going to be targeting our resistance, our support level, here at about 165 should earnings not be that great. This is where they could potentially drop to before getting any support. As you can see, it's well in line with our 12 EMA right there. So moving on to Amazon. Amazon, big, massive day, right? Massive day. In the after hours, they've come down a bit. They were up pretty much exactly what they were before the close, right? So they were up about 4% on the day, which is a very big day for Amazon, guys. This thing has a huge market cap, right? So they were up initially off of the earnings pop, and now it's about 5:30, 5:45. So they must be going over the earnings call because most of Amazon's growth is coming from AWS cloud services, right? So I'm pretty sure that a lot of the questions, obviously I'm streaming now, so I can't listen to the call, I'll listen to it after. Don't know exactly what they're saying for it to be giving up all its gains right now. However, still is maintaining most of the gains throughout the day. So it may just turn out to be flat earnings, kind of like Google was, right? Google kind of did the same thing after its earnings, had some really positive earnings, and then they gave the call, and then it kind of fell down when they said that a few of their sectors weren't growing as they should have. and their guidance wasn't as clear as it should have been for analysts for next quarter. So I assume that's what's happening with Amazon as well. Analysts are asking questions, and they may be getting not the guidance that they were potentially expecting for the future quarters, or maybe they're revising some numbers with them as well. So I'll be taking a look at that after. As we can see now, it's dipping a little bit, but Amazon for the day, they did crack our 113 resistance here. We're not able to close above, but it does give us now some price discovery, right? You saw the price discovery all the way into the 120 range. So I'm looking at still this level, right? As long as we can't close below it, above it, this is going to be our range of resistance from the 113, this guy right here, all the way to 120, these guys up here. And, so far, Amazon, even despite them coming down a bit, they're still closing above our blue line, which is the first day today, you're witnessing it live. This is our first time that we've closed above the 200-day moving average since last August. So it's noteworthy, definitely noteworthy. Bulls full in control of the daily time frame. On the weekly time frame as well, we are in full control. As you can see, our moving averages are starting to curl to the upside. There's still a lot of space. If somehow we're going to give up this move, right? Still a lot of space to set a weekly high or low once again, right? All the way down to about 103, 102 before testing these moving averages and testing our horizontal support line. So bulls in complete control at this point. Those are the targets to the up and the downside. Google. Now, Google is interesting as well. So Google was not able to cross our famous purple line here, which is the most massive support and resistance area for Google. So what we want to see is, pending some good potential earnings from Apple, because Apple usually carries absolutely everybody, pending either bullish news from the Fed, because it's going to be tough, guys, for Google to break this such a massive area without some broader catalyst. It either needs to be company specific or it needs to be a broad catalyst. Usually you don't see the market just grind through these areas, right? If it wanted to grind through these areas, it would have already done it. It's had more than enough chance to do it so far. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to the bulls by them keeping close to this resistance area. It shows that they really want to break it on this weekly move up. So they're not willing to sacrifice too much of the weekly move. As you saw, they didn't roll over too much, came down, almost touched our moving averages right here, and now we're right back upstairs. So it's only a matter of time before bulls keep smashing at this resistance, and before those sellers, they can't hold the wall anymore, and they're forced to let the bulls through, right? So that's what we're expecting. We're expecting further continuation for Google to the upside. If they do break, we're looking at 112 and then potentially 122 as our next targets to the upside. On the downside, we got a bunch of support. On the downside, if we do break down, we're going to break down anywhere between $102 and $100 before we're going to have to reevaluate these charts. It would still be pretty much a weekly high or low. On the monthly time frame, though, it's still a lot of space being created, right? We're now starting to create a monthly potential uptrend, right? So even if it does have to come down here, so much space from the bottom, guys, for us to be able to do that. And look at Google too. Google, if they close the month like this, first monthly close above our short-term moving averages. Have not seen this since the bull market. It has to be notable, guys. That's what I'm pointing out. You just have to take note of it, right? Very, very notable. Now, moving on to our last one, Microsoft. So Microsoft here, these guys have one of the best balance sheets in the entire game. I had a few of my buddies ask me today, like, how can Microsoft keep pushing like that? It's like disregarding the entire market. And yes, it is. But what you guys have to understand is they are a free cash flow monster, an absolute monster of free cash flow. They're making almost $8 a share for the entire year this year in free cash flow, which is absolutely massive, right? That's almost 2.5% of current share price per share in free cash flow. Absolutely massive. They're going to go through with the Activision Blizzard deal. It makes them assert their dominance over the gaming industry. Microsoft is an octopus. They have arms in every leg of every business, whether it be for consumers or business to business solutions. They are an absolute monster. They have a bunch of licenses, right? So not only do they have physical products, they also have digital products, and they're extremely well diversified. Their management is extremely solid. They are a lead player at this point in AI software and cloud computing. So basically, if you were to go through which I always do, if you were to go through their financial statements, you would be really hard pressed to find anything wrong with their balance sheet. They are just extremely well run, extremely well managed company, and they grow. Their return on invested capital is always between 13-15% a year, guys. So I mean, that's the reason why this stock moves up so much every single year. Until the return on invested capital goes down, until they start producing less amount of returns basically for every dollar you invest in them, then their share price will continue to go up. It's just the way that the stock market works. You know what I mean? Now, obviously you would want them to come down and fill this gap. Do they have to? I mean, arguably no. Arguably no. If they continue pushing like this, I mean, I hate to say it, right? Unless we get some bad news out of Jerome Powell, or Apple somehow reverses the entire trend to the downside or something like that, or we get some macro bad news to where tech has to pull back, the gap fill at this point is looking very, very difficult, because price targets for Microsoft are anywhere between the 320 to 340s for analysts by the end of the year. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Our next targets here for short-term technicals will be 315. To the downside, we're looking at about 278. I would be very surprised, however, if bulls were to give back this weekly move. So we are in a continually confirmed weekly uptrend at this point. Bulls in full control. Now you can see monthly candle closes are now well above our moving averages here. As you can see, guys, has not happened since the beginning of the bull run. If you take one thing away from this entire video, notice all the monthly charts that I've been showing you. This has not happened since we've been in a bull market, closing above our short-term moving averages for 2 months in a row. As you can see, Microsoft hadn't done it the entire way down, right? Entire way down. They were bogged down. We've finally done it. So we have to give the benefit of the doubt to the bulls at this point. If they're in control of the monthly time frame, the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, then why would you be short, right? The trend is your friend, guys, right? So dips on these companies that I've shown you that the monthlies are above now, all dips will be for buying for the algorithms, and that's just how the game's played. So Microsoft, very, very, very bullish, very, very bullish earnings for them. Tesla got a bit of it today, right? So 420 almost, right? 420 on the day for Microsoft, engulfing all of yesterday's negative move. What I was saying yesterday is that we probably would be filling this gap before going back up to fill this gap. Well, what did we do today, guys? We pushed a little bit lower. As you can see, our low of the day here today was about 152.30-ish, right? So we did fill a portion of the gap. We didn't fill the entire gap all the way to down about 147, right? Before moving upwards. So now we're kind of caught halfway. This engulfing move would lead me to believe that bulls have created enough space here on the lower time frames to potentially set up something like this. If we turn around the 4-hour candles, right, then you know that further upside can be potentially expected. For now, we're still in a 4-hour downtrend. We have to confirm the higher low. So I'm taking it one time frame at a time. The bulls did a great job today of putting in a lot of work to reverse our hourly time frame, right? Now we have to set a higher low, confirm the hourly uptrend. At the same time, they would be confirming a 4-hour uptrend too. And only then can you look up at the daily and say, okay, we can expect daily continuation. If, however, we're not able to confirm a 1 and 4-hour uptrend, if for some reason we continuously roll over like this and do something like that, well then, unfortunately, guys, we can't expect some daily continuation of the upside. So on Tesla, the hourly time frame and the 4-hour time frames are going to be the ones that I'm watching very, very heavily to determine whether or not we're going to fill this gap right here first, or if we're going to move higher and start filling this gap up a little bit more. So that's what I'm looking out for on Tesla. We need the hot Tesla bulls, guys. We need the higher low confirmation for potential further upside. Now, looking into Meta, what can I say about Meta? They had some earnings that were kind of in between for me, right? So their revenue numbers and their EPS weren't that great. I mean, they were okay. As you can see, we slightly beat, right? We beat EPS by a slight amount. Our quarterly revenues were down quarter over quarter. Profit margin was kind of in line with what they've done in the past. They've always hovered between 15-20% net profit margin, right? The one thing about Meta, though, if you guys are scratching your heads looking at these earnings as I was yesterday, going through the statement, if you guys are confused why they got such a bump, it was only due to users, right? They had an increase in net users across their platforms, Instagram users, and they also had an increase in Facebook users quarter over quarter and year over year. And usually when you have companies that run heavy subscription models like these guys and Netflix, those metrics play a large part in how the sentiment is on earnings. So despite the fact that they didn't come out with the best numbers, they did come out with some very, very good cost efficiency. So Zuckerberg has done a great job this year at reducing costs. He let go of a lot of people. He tapered back on his metaverse expenses. He was able to control a lot of items in that income statement to really increase cash flow this quarter. And what they've done as well over the past year, we can't forget, guys, that Facebook has bought back a tremendous amount of stock over the last year, which has also contributed to having less share dilution, right? So we've had some share buybacks here, which also contribute to an increase in share price as a consequent. And I think as a whole, I forget the exact number, but it's around, from the math that I did, it's around 4.5% of shares outstanding. I think they had something like 2 point something billion shares outstanding, and they 2.8, I think they brought it down to like something like 2.4, maybe it's like 2.6 down to like 2.3, somewhere in that ballpark, but it was around 5%. So it was very, very, very good. Very, very good in terms of share buybacks and whatnot. And because of their increase in net users, right, that's what was able to garner them a higher share price off the break here. On the technical levels, as you can see, we've broken now all recent levels of resistance, just about all. We have one last guy here sitting about 250, and then it's entirely gap fill. We don't really have much price history unless we go way back, right? So you can use this area a bit if you want to, right, in the 250s and stuff like that. But usually once you start filling a gap, it stands to argue that the rest of the gap will be filled. I don't think that Facebook is going to do it necessarily fast in one shot. It may take a while, but we've left a very big gap similar to Microsoft to be filled here to the downside. So if ever we have some company specific news that's negative or some macro news that's negative, expect us to come fill this gap. We have supports here at 220. And if you want to do the full gap fill, that's down to 210. But as of now, guys, I mean, I can't say much. Bulls are in full control. We've now created so much space that the most likely scenario, if we do come down, it will just be a higher low compared to here. And then before we potentially consolidate or resume to the upside. So that's what I'm looking out for on Meta. I'm going to go through a couple more. NVIDIA here. I mean, NVIDIA still stuck within our range, Semiconductors as a whole had a fairly decent day today. They really they started off extremely bad. You can see it on NVIDIA. You can see it on AMD, right? We started AMD about 3-4% to the downside. ON Semiconductor as well. We started about 3-4% to the downside here. And now we were able to recapture all of that move to the upside and push higher into yesterday's high, right? So it's very possible that at this point we are setting the weekly higher low, right? Weekly confirmed uptrend. If we set a higher low here, next target we're going to be looking for is right above here, our weekly resistance level here, right around the sorry guys, right around the 263-ish, 262, 263 level here. Further targets to the downside. If you're bearish and you want semiconductors to fall, then you would have to see something like this and then roll over, which would confirm a weekly downtrend. But for now, bulls are still in control of the high time frames here. If we look on the daily, same thing. Bulls did a great job of holding this relative support area here. And what we're going to want to see is we're going to want to see bulls confirm a daily uptrend, but the bears obviously want to see the reverse. They want to see something like this and then push for further downside. So downside levels of support here, 200-day moving average right around 233-ish, which also coincides. I really shouldn't do those lines. I should do it like this, right? It's cleaner. Really coincides with our 233 area. So bulls really have to hold this level as a whole. I want to go over one more because I know this is one that a few people asked me about here, Enphase. Now, Enphase is kind of in the same situation as Tesla. We can't really tell much from the daily time frame. Obviously, this is now in a weekly and daily downtrend, right? So what you have to do first is one time frame at a time. Now, stuck in a range, no clear direction, even on the lower time frames, no clear direction. You want to see, if you're bullish, if you want to see an upswing here, you have to see bulls put in a bit of a move, confirm a retest, and confirm the hourly uptrend. Until we have no hourly confirmed uptrend, we can't start saying that the daily bulls are going to start pushing again. We have to do it, guys. Even if it's something like this, if we drop a bit and then come above and then retest, right? There's multiple ways that they can do it. But what you want to see, you have to see the hourly time frame go to the bulls. So far, the bulls were not able to do that. As you can see, Enphase today almost got none of this broad market rally today. You can see my entire list here, and I have a few of them, right? I have the value list as well. The value list as well was almost, except for a few, the Waste Connection and Waste Management stocks, which had earnings today. The rest of the entire list is green. The rest of my, this is the list that I use to trade a lot of options, right? So everything is green almost, right? Everything is green. Now, except for Enphase. Enphase is one of the weaker performers on the day. It's probably still getting bogged down by negative earnings and whatnot. So we have to let it consolidate, and the bulls have to regain the hourly time frame. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today, guys. Tomorrow we do have some PCE numbers, futures. As we can see now, giving a bit of it back in after hours. That's completely normal. The time frames up here are absolutely ridiculously overbought. So it wouldn't surprise me here if in the after hours over the night, the bulls take some profits and we're able to really, set some higher lows here, cool off these lower time frames, because we have to cool them off, right? They're really, bulls are in complete control at this point. We want to see some further upside continuation, but we need to cool down those short-term time frames because they can't push like that forever. So even if we just consolidate sideways, guys, these things will cool right off and we could potentially resume for tomorrow. So that's pretty much it for today. If you guys liked the video, consider liking, consider subscribing. Well, I have my Mr. Beast t-shirt on today, supporting fellow YouTube content creators, right? Biggest in the game. You have to show some love. And yeah, so tomorrow, got some inflation numbers. And then next week, Papa Jerome on Wednesday and Apple Thursday. So let's get it, guys. Have a great night. I hope you guys had a good day trading, and I'll catch you tomorrow.